Hello, my friends. Welcome. My name is Joe. This is the Joe Martino Show. And today we're going to talk about the holidays. How do we navigate difficult conversations around the holidays? Is there a better way than just not going? I believe there is. And I actually think it would help all of society if we were to do this regularly, not just around the holidays. Let's kick it off. This is the Joe Martino Show.
You're listening to The Joe Martino Show, a podcast dealing with all things emotional, relational, and human nature. Joe is a licensed counselor in the state of Michigan, specializing in relationship therapy. He is also the author of the book, The Emotionally Secure Couple. All advice offered in this episode is offered for entertainment and educational purposes only. Enjoy the show.
Hello, friends. Welcome. I hope that today's going well for you. Wherever today is, I hope you're enjoying it. It's hard to believe, but we're already to November. When this goes down, I think it's going to be almost November 15th. And I think like 11, 12, probably the 12th. And we are almost to Thanksgiving. And every year around October, I start getting letters, emails, or people just stop me and ask me, like, how do you recommend we handle the holidays? Right? And this takes various forms. But one of the questions that is common is, how do we deal with the distress of the holidays around conversations, politics, all of those things. And in our country, feeling divided or more divided, maybe than ever. I know we fought a civil war, so it's a little hard to judge that for me or gauge that. How do we have the conversations? Because we're now at a place where, like, I agree with you on everything but who you voted for, so I can't come to your house for Thanksgiving. I agree with you on everything, including who you voted for, but this one policy, so I can't come to your house for Christmas. Or if we do come to your house for Christmas, we can't have conversations without some sort of a fight fest. What was that movie? Fight Club. It's some sort of fight club, right? The first rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about what happens at Fight Club. Well, we've changed that rule to now the first rule of Fight Club is we just don't participate in Fight Club. And so one of the things that I want to talk about, because if you know me, I would love to see a revolution happen in our world where we can have hard conversations, where we can have conversations where we disagree, where we can have conversations where nuanced thinking is required. And part of that is that we're struggling with that. I made a post on one of my TikToks, hidingbehindgod.tiktok.com, where I talked about Christian nationalism. And I said, look, as a fight song, this is a bad idea. And literally everybody either told me I was an idiot because, some people agreed with me, but a lot of people told me I was an idiot because it wasn't Christian nationalism what I was talking about, or they told me what Christian nationalism was. And at last count, between all my social medias, I had somewhere around 30 definitions given to me, and they were all different definitions. And that's because nuanced thinking was required to understand the video. I wasn't saying that Christian nationalism doesn't exist. I was pointing out that if you ascribe Christian nationalism as any virtue that comes from a person's faith that they want to see somehow enforced, you have Christian nationalism. And to me, that's why it makes a bad fight song. That's why it makes a bad zinger. And nuanced thinking is required to have that conversation. And I would love to see that happen. I would love to see that hopefully happen in our society, where we can have conversations that we disagree on, where maybe we passionately disagree on, and we can have the nuanced conversation to run that out. And so today, what I hope to do is to give you some just practical tips on how you can control your side of the conversation, how you can control your participation in the conversation to help maybe move people, or at least the conversation, to a conversation. Now, there is something you have to ask yourself first. Is the other person interested in a conversation, or do they just kind of beat their soapbox? And I have a strategy for that too, that you could still engage in and have a conversation with them. Now, obviously, and this is the one that gets the most media today, the most advertising, is the easiest way to deal with a person who just wants to beat their soapbox is to just ignore them. I talked about that last week in the episode where we just kind of in personal cancel culture. We just kind of talking to people, we don't engage. And really, I think personal cancel culture is really well illustrated by this idea of, I'm just not going to go there for Thanksgiving because they voted for Trump. I'm just not going to go there for Thanksgiving because they voted for Kamala. And that problem is we think that all of our political opinions are moral. We think that all of our political beliefs are morally superior to those that disagree with us. The people on the other side aren't trying to solve a legitimate problem. The people on the other side, they're just corrupt. It's just them that are corrupt. And it's interesting to me, I think I've talked about this before, but the very, very pro-Trumpers, a lot of them will say to me, I don't think he's a perfect candidate, but, and a lot of the pro-other side, whether it's Kamala or Biden or Barack, well, I don't think she is the ultimate candidate or the perfect candidate, but, and they'll accept that for their guy, but not for the other guy or girl in the case of Kamala, which is, I'm not trying to be sexist here. Don't come for me over that. Right. But you have to decide, is the person talking, do they really want to have a conversation? And one of the ways that you can go around that is you can ask them point blank, do you want to have a conversation or do you just want me to hear you? You can ask them point blank. Do you want to have a conversation or do you want me to just hear you? Now, there is a problem that we have as people. There's a fascinating book out right now, Everybody Lies. It has some problems, in my opinion. The guy confuses correlation with causation sometimes. He assigns only one possible motive to why people do things. But he talks about how often data is skewed because most of our research today is often self-reported. So anytime you hear, scientists look at the methodology, how they collected their data, and a lot of times it's self-report, which is the least reliable data set that we can get, because we tend to overestimate our altruistic nature. We tend to underestimate the opposite of our altruistic nature. And so almost everybody's gonna be like, well, of course I want to have a conversation. There's a few, fanatics that are gonna be like, no, I don't want to have a conversation because I don't understand how anybody could have that opinion and be moral or blah, blah, blah. But most of them are gonna say, yes, of course I want to have a conversation, and they might not. And you'll know that by how they answer. And so here's rule one. We want to deal with the person's argument, not them. If you get into logical fallacies, attacking the person, not dealing with their argument, is called an ad hominem attack. And you'll see this like, well, you're immoral. I think you're, anytime you throw a label on a person without actually going after their argument, you're attacking them. And if they do that, there is a strategy that we're going to talk about here in a minute that you can engage. It's going to be hard though. And so you have to decide what's the price you're willing to pay. And people, if somebody else's opinions get you very, very fired up, really you need to do some inner work and ask yourself why, right? If somebody tells me that the earth is flat, it doesn't really move me much. I'm like, oh, okay, well, tell me more about that. Tell me why you believe that. I'm not going to sit there and argue with them about why I think the world is not flat. So when I have a big reaction to someone else's belief, I need to do some inner work and ask myself why. Why do I have this belief about that is so strong that someone just disagreeing with it fires me up like this? And so we start there. We always start with ourselves. And yet, if we can chase comfortable thinking, if we can chase uncomfortable thinking, if we can chase forcing our brain to engage in some nuanced debate, the more we do it, the better we'll get at it. And so we can have conversations. You can have a conversation about any hot topic, I promise you, any hot topic, and not devolve into a fighting skill if you spend a little bit of time trying to understand what the other person's saying first. And once you do that, you'll understand if they want to have a conversation. You can bring up counterpoints, but depending on how they respond, you need to assess what they're doing and then respond accordingly. So if they're actually engaging you in a conversation, you have the conversation. If they are attacking you in their response, you can always back out. You can always be like, hey, maybe this isn't the best time for this to have this conversation. And here's the thing that you have to remember. You're not responsible for what they believe, nor are you responsible for what they feel. If they're mad because you believe something other than what they believe, that's on them. That is their responsibility. It's not yours. Now, I cannot tell you how much I hope that we have these conversations. I hope that we have them around the holidays, but I hope we have them year round. We start with, let me understand what you're saying. And then, hey, is it all right if I tell you what I think about this topic? Not why I think you're wrong, but what I think about this topic. If neither one of those work, you can always drop into mirroring. And the most angry of people will often diffuse the more they feel hurt. A lot of times people who are escalating, yes, it's because their opinion's more moral than anyone else. I don't actually believe that. It's mostly because they don't feel heard. And if you can engage in a skill where you help them feel heard, often you will diffuse their anger, which is what we're looking for. And then we can still spend time together around the holidays together. Of course, you can always direct the conversation away from the topic. You can move it towards other topics. You could say something like, hey, I can see this is very passionate to you. You're very passionate about this. It's very important to you. We clearly disagree, and you seem to be very upset. I would love to still spend time with you. Can we talk about something else that we agree on, or something maybe that we find less disagreement in? And some people are like, well, I don't patronize them. I don't see how that's patronizing. I feel like that's inviting the person into an adult to adult relationship where we recognize this topic over here we disagree with, but there's all this over here we could talk about. And some people are going to be like, no, I can't do that because you're an immoral person because you support this candidate or you believe in this ideology or whatever it is. Okay, then sorry. And then you can go either talk to somebody else at the gathering or, make different decisions. But you will be able to know, you'll be able to look back at your own behaviors and know that you did everything you could to keep the conversation going, to be able to find unity in disagreement. And that is something that we've kind of lost. We've changed the word unity to kind of mean to support each other all the time about everything. And we've changed the word support to mean we have to agree and affirm all of that. And I don't think I don't think those are good definitions. I don't think that that's overly helpful to people. Instead, I want to have conversations with you where you challenge what I'm thinking. Maybe I want to challenge what you're thinking. And together we become better. And that's actual unity. So, sometimes people, hey, you know what? It's clear that you and I have differing opinions right now. And I don't find that this conversation is very productive. Do you think it's very productive? Because I feel like I'm getting yelled at right now. Or maybe they feel like they're getting yelled at. And so we have a conversation, or we just move it to another topic. That's okay too. And, we'll notice that there's a pattern here. First, we're going to establish expectations. Hey, do you actually want me to tell you what I believe? Do we actually want to have a conversation? Or are you more or less just interested in kind of telling me you believe? You believe it or not, when you ask people that, there are some people like, no, I just want you to know what I believe. I just want to tell you what I believe. Okay, can do that. Especially if there is a greater good here in my mind, which is like we're going to have a family event. Right. So hey, start with clear expectations. But then we are going to make decisions based off of the other person's behaviors. So if they say, yes, I want to have a conversation, but then they're really just kind of attacking, they're calling me names, or they're talking over me, I withdraw from that conversation if I can. If I can't, I'm happy to drop into mirroring. And because the truth is, I might learn something, right? I'm not going to escalate the situation by mirroring. And I might learn something that'd be like, I hadn't thought that before, and change my opinion. This has happened on numerous topics for me, where I've had conversations with people who are very different than me belief-wise. They have very strong opinions differently than me. And then to move, and I realize they're not interested in hearing what I believe. They just want to tell me what they believe. I just drop into mirroring. Just take maybe the last part of what they said, reflect back to them what they said. And they tell me more and more. And more than once, I've been like, oh man, you know what? I've never actually thought of that argument. That at the very least, I'm going to grow because I'm going to have to wrestle with this argument that they just gave me. And it's a good time for me because that's how I grow and that's how I get emotional and mental wholeness. So we start with clear expectations. Then we make decisions based off of their actions, drop into mirroring, have the conversation. A couple things to avoid. We want to avoid attacking what they're saying as much as we can, right? Like if you know this hot topic, instead of talking about why you think they're wrong, talk about why you think what you believe is correct. Talk about why you believe what you believe. Try to certainly avoid attacking them. And as much as you can, avoid what I call the verbal chest poke, right? Like I think you're wrong because. That's just a verbal chest poke. Instead, say, well, what I believe is. You're going to say the same information next, but you haven't done that verbal chest poke to kind of set it, and it usually goes better. Listen, if you have a way that you have these conversations that I didn't bring up today, I'd love to hear about it. I'm always looking to learn new things. Send me an email. Put it up on your Facebook and tag me. I don't care how you do it. Get it to me, tweet it, set up smoke signals as long as I know they're there. I don't know how to read those though, so let me know and I'll take a video and have Google translate them for me. That's a joke, people. Whatever I need to do there to find out, I'd love to hear it. Tell me what works for you, what you have found works for you, and maybe I'll incorporate it in a future show. If you found value in this, please share it with your friends. I can't tell you how much that helps me. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please share with a friend. And hey, give us that rating in your podcast store. Until next time, change possible.